If it wasn't obvious in Minnesota's run to the Western Conference Finals last season, Julius Randle is now an essential, efficient, and borderline dominant part of this Timberwolves offense this season. It's only been 3 games so far, but it seems like he's only fitting in even better right now as a second option next to Anthony Edwards and a hub for Minnesota to run their offense through. In those 3 games, he's averaging 25, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists on insane efficiency. And while this is obviously Anthony Edwards' team, it feels like Randle has become the central axis for this offense to revolve around, while the Wolves still find plenty of opportunity for Anthony Edwards to do his thing as well. Edwards is always going to be the top dog for this Minnesota offense, but they really need Randle to be a supercharged second option like he was in the playoffs, and that seems to be carrying over into the start of this season. And I think we're seeing even more offensive hub kind of things from Randle than we have before for Minnesota. These possessions where he's in the middle of the floor and the team revolves around him. There's a dive through to the rim here from Anthony Edwards. He's then flowing into a screen so DiVincenzo can slice through the paint. And even if those options are covered, Randle's now got the middle through here to drive in and score. They're not a high off-ball movement team, but we do see it more when Randle is at the controls. Without a reliable point guard in their rotation, him here in the middle of the floor, with players flowing off fake handoffs, around screens, and into spaces to score is becoming one of their best offensive principles. The more we see of this from Randle, the better Minnesota is going to be. Again, he's setting up shop at that elbow extended area, players are flowing around him as that central cog within the offensive machine, weak side there's multiple options to come off, and Randle is making the right reads as a playmaker, while also knowing when to take the reins as a scorer that Minnesota does need him to be. At times you're going to see possessions like this where he lets those screeners and movers clear out around him so he can take a big off the dribble who can't defend him, but at other times, he's going to bring someone like Anthony Edwards back into the action, flip it into a quick handoff to create a pull-up 3 against drop coverage, and that's a shot that Minnesota really likes. Again, it does just seem that things work better when Minnesota's weapons are firing off around him while he's there as the anchor point. And he's just picking those spots to do that really well right now. On this possession, instead of trying to use that ball screen to get downhill through here, he sees that Conley is vacating that corner and flows into a handoff with DiVincenzo so that he can eat up that empty side of the floor now and get all the way to the rim. But when it's time to come off a ball screen and leverage it into his own scoring bag, he's picking those possessions as well and finding his scoring zones in that elbow area where he really is comfortable. And it's probably just in that area, that elbow, high post sort of area, that he's always going to be the most dangerous because he reads the defense so well from there. First of all, if teams are single coveraging him, he's going to be a bully ball scorer with a silky mid-range touch. They're going to run these wedge actions with this diagonal up screen here to get him to his spot, but if the defense isn't bringing help, he's going to punish them either off the catch or by putting his head down and getting closer to the rim. If teams want to try and keep their shell and not send one of these guys up to get the ball out of his hands, he's going to kill most defenders they put on him in single coverage. Randle was a high volume, high efficiency post-up scorer last season. He was well over a point per possession, shot almost 57% coming out of them, and ranked in the 75th percentile despite being right near the top in terms of post-up volume. A lot of that effectiveness came from when teams do scheme to hold him in single coverage. He's got a pretty deep bag of moves and very defined scoring zones to get to when he has that room to operate within 15 feet of the basket. It's not really the prettiest brand of hoops, but the Wolves don't run a pretty offense, and they have a bunch of players who aren't pretty to watch, so this is definitely an effective option for them to go to as long as the defenses are guarding him with one player. So why would teams choose to play him in single coverage? Well, it's because we go back to how he was reading defenses as a playmaker and has been for a while now with Minnesota. If you send a second defender at Randle, he's going to become that playmaker, and that's the brand of basketball that does feel better on the eyes. Sometimes it's just going to be a defender shading over too far off a shooter, kind of trying to preload that double team, and he's willing to fire off that pass early in those situations. Those quick passes against a team who is just starting to think about loading up on Randle as that post-up hub have become a staple of Minnesota's offense. Starting at the back end of last season and then carrying over even more into this season. Rather than always trying to completely collapse a defense, when Randle is in that hub position and feels this defender creeping over, he's able to create an open look out of it without exerting much effort. And that's handy because a lot of the time he is going to really burrow his way into the paint before he finds those shooters. The closer Randle gets to the rim, the more these defenders are going to shrink the floor around him, and the better looks his shooters are going to get on those kick-out passes. This isn't a super high ball movement team, and it will get messy at times, but if they create these kinds of floor maps, it will lead to good looks from deep, and Randle is the only player outside of Anthony Edwards who can consistently create those looks. This possession is a really great example of his game as a whole right now. Again, he's assuming that hub role at the elbow, he's got multiple runners coming off him, he bullies that single coverage defense, so the second defender shifts over and he makes the right read to find the corner shooter who's now wide open. Now, it would feel even more dangerous if Minnesota had more shooters who were capable of converting in these situations. They're just not really getting it consistently from McDaniels, the whole bench unit, and then obviously Gobert as well, but even then the numbers are already confirming what the eye test this season tells us. When Randle's on the court, Minnesota shoot 42% from deep, but when he's off the court, they're shooting just 27%. Those numbers will probably trend closer together as the sample size grows, but it does match what we're seeing. They just don't get as many open looks on kick-out passes when he's not there operating as the oil inside the engine. These first few games have raised a lot of questions for Minnesota. They need to find someone who can defend when Rudy Gobert is off the floor, they desperately need some point guard play, and they still need more shooters and offensive weapons to really emerge within this team, but Julius Randle as a high-powered second option and nucleus of the offense has been a definite success so far. If you like this video, you can hit subscribe, like the video, or drop a comment down below. And if you want to see more of Howls and Growls, check out the Worldwide Wolves podcast on YouTube and everywhere you listen to podcasts. Thanks again for watching.